That's not even a CCW-involved incident. That's just a great example of just a
What happened to
normal
Homie's, your
American.
castle?
It is.
What happened to that?
It's still around. You have 3 castles. Why your taxes are so high?
All right, Adam from USCCA. How are you, my friend?
Doing well.
So for those who live under a rock, why don't you give them what is USCCA?
U.S. Concealed Carry Association. First and foremost, national training organization. So that's big part of what the organization does. Like Dave said earlier, the training and education portion of it, and also self-defense liability insurance portion.
But
of
it's
it.
kind of training first and insurance second.
Yeah, we want people to be as trained and educated as possible. Not just concealed carry, whether it's just owning a gun or self-defense. Period. That part's important.
And the insurance just isn't gun related.
Not at all.
If you thump somebody with a baseball bat,
Coverage, any self-defense type of incident.
Exactly.
Whether it's a firearm or use your imagination. I've heard of everything from pepper spray to we had a knife incident here in
how
town.
about kicking somebody's butt?
If you can, go for it.
Defensively.
But I'm just saying,
Self-defense.
Defensively.
self-defense. Well,
Sure.
yeah, of course.
It's got to be
All self-defense.
Do you have to get beat?
I don't know what that would even look like.
Well, you wouldn't. No, Alicia would.
I can't even imagine that.
Oh, Alicia.
Oh, Alicia does that.
Uh-oh, leave your pocket knife
The
alone.
beating.
Leave it
But
alone.
I mean, some of the background though, kind of came about with that stuff was, people that were legally defending themselves and then getting kind of screwed by, the justice system and civil lawsuits and that kind of thing. So it's like, why don't we do something to have people's back that are in that situation?
Did you originally start out just gun incidents and then expand it to all self-defense?
It's kind of always been all self-defense,
Okay.
really.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's important to know because
Yeah.
I have to say when people ask me about it,
Right.
that's the first thing they think of is, I have to be in a gun defense incident?
Right.
No,
Or
no,
people
no.
think you have to have a CCW,
Right.
which is not the case either.
So, that's another.
Yeah.
Well, and they started off publishing. You guys were, a magazine first, which was the educational part.
Which still exists.
Yeah.
Still a benefit of the membership.
Yep, and
Concealed Carry Magazine.
then turned into so much more.
Should have Sam the gunman write for him.
There you go.
About 830,000 members now.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
So you guys are there's a couple of different companies, organizations that do this, but you guys are by far the biggest.
Biggest and kind of the original, too.
Right.
Yeah. 21 years now.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I didn't know it was 21 years.
You've been with him 21 years.
I've been almost 4, but
I'm
the company's been
impressed.
about 21 years.
You look good for 21 years.
Thank you.
So you guys had some big changes, a couple of big announcements.
Sure.
And I wanted to really touch on all those and talk about them thoroughly. So
Yeah.
which one do you want to talk about first?
So some of the we can talk about some of the stuff with regards to like the policy and things like that. Not to get too into the weeds with it, but it's to be honest, kind of one of those things where when you become kind of the number one person or organization or whatever, people want to bring you down.
Everybody takes a shot at you.
Exactly. So doing a lot of that stuff, disrupting the industry a little bit with the way the organization is doing things and helping the partnerships and all that kind of thing. It started to bring, let's call it haters, if you will. So basically, a lot of them, totally honest, companies that are trying to sell their own product by trashing USCCA.
Right.
A lot of misinformation, a lot of false information, making YouTube videos, all that kind of stuff. Right. Spreading stuff about the policy and if you do this, they're not going to cover you and da 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 da. And so I'll kind of lead with my what I tell people when I'm in person, especially with people. People bring that up. Oh, I saw this guy on YouTube say this. Well, my thing getting into it, working for him now almost 4 years, seeing the character for one of the organization, but then also I've gotten to be friends and met a lot of attorneys across the country, literally across the country. And the cool thing, it's what makes us take pride in it. Every attorney was like, every time I've ever gotten a call from USCCA, they're helping the member out right away, hands down, no questions asked, good to go. I mean, yeah, obviously if you go out there and you're robbing 7-Eleven or something, you're going to have some issues getting coverage, right? But that's where I come. I don't care about the guy on YouTube. This is where in the real world, Gary's a good example. When he got his first case here locally, that was a USCCA member. He's like, oh my God, easiest thing in the world. I talked to him right away, paid me right away, went to work on the case, good to go. So anyway, to get to that.
The attorneys I've talked to about USCCA, nothing but good things.
Yeah.
Well, and this is real world experience. They've
that's the
actually
thing.
defended people, and USCCA took care of them from soup to
Well,
nuts.
and if you were not doing the right thing,
Right.
according to the YouTube guy, would you have any lawyers working with you?
Right.
No, they wouldn't. It wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
But when you get accolades, just as Mike mentioned, you almost don't even need to defend it. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, but there's in a way, people do listen to some of that stuff. So, you know, they had to go, they went back and they kind of made it more clear, added some things in the policy and changed some language. Like, look, this is black and white. You claim self-defense, you're covered. We have your back, all that kind of stuff, just to kind of put people at ease that were concerned about it. There people that were concerned. There, you know, people. The funny thing too, people bring up like, oh my God, they're bleeding members. And all. No, they're 830,000 members. That's not the case. Most people, when you actually research, can find the truth, right? But so that was the first thing, kind of changing some of the language to put, you know,
to clarify that. Hey, look,
clarify
if you're a member and if you're in a self-defense situation, you're getting covered.
Yeah, putting people at ease a little bit with that stuff.
Yeah, kind of end discussion.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, which is already the case. You know, I mean, California, like you got a bunch of good. I tell people too in classes, Southern California, we have some amazing attorneys. A lot that I've met. You know, I mean, Gary, obviously, you know, a great one too is like Steve Lieberman, if you guys know him in Orange County.
Sure.
You know,
Artemis.
Yeah, Artemis Defense. You know, he even put out a blog about that when some of this stuff came out. He's like, look, I'm affiliated in the way that I make videos on YouTube because it helps me and I promote it, you know, but I've taken, he says, probably 30 cases from USCCA. Never had any issues with anything. And that's what I tell people, you know, I don't really care what the guy on YouTube says. This is the real world. This is, you know, how it goes. But they wanted to, you know, kind of adjust it because people also need to realize with a lot of this stuff, with the policies and insurance and all that, you have to have certain things in place for it to even be available in the U.S. Mm-hmm. You know, it's got to be legal or else the whole thing doesn't exist. And then what good does that do? Right. But you know, the goal was kind of clarifying, like you said, some of that stuff, putting people at ease. So that was kind of the first portion of it, and then we can talk about some of the updates to coverage and things.
Yeah, and just to put I have no concerns with USCCA and their coverage. I don't know an attorney that has any concerns with USCCA and their coverage who's worked with USCCA. I think they're great. I regularly recommend them, and I have no reason. I mean, your customer service has been exemplary. I think that just you personally, in all honesty, it puts you head and shoulders above a lot of your competition because it's not just some 800 number, off in the distance somewhere. You come to the meetings, you show up at the events, you're in the community, and I think that's huge. I think that's a huge advantage that USCCA has. So
yeah, I mean, and to add to that real quick, personally, I wouldn't sell it if that wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm not a politician.
No.
You know,
I met you at a gun range. Long before USCCA, I met you at a gun range.
Yep. Working as an RSO.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So what's all right. So clarified that. There were another couple of announcements or so that the USCCA came out with that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So a few updates to the coverage that exists for members. So the cool thing too is all this stuff goes into effect, and this isn't really something new with the process. USCCA literally every year tries to add and figure stuff out and add new benefits and things like that. So it's not a new thing. But upgrading, for instance, the first one, the amount for bail went to up to $2.5 million bail.
Jeez.
From $1 million. Part of the reason is it's also sort of taking data from real stuff. They look at real things. Some of these cases kind of went above that. So let's raise that up. So $2.5 million bail now. That's a big one. The other stuff still does exist. The unlimited defense, criminal, civil, $2 million for the civil liability. That's still there. Obviously. And then, so some of the other points that were added on was there's a $10,000 extra benefit, which is basically to help somebody if they needed some time off or something, they had to miss work after an incident because of stress or whatever. And that's in addition to there's up to a $750 per day benefit that goes in if you have to miss work or business to go to court or something like that. So supplementing your income for that kind of thing. So that's one. There's another new addition, $5,000, which is basically to help pay an attorney to expunge and seal records from an incident, things like that. And then to what you guys are already talking about, the big one that we've been pushing for a long time, they were able to get done, is $15,000 benefit to hire an attorney if you ever are in a GVRO or red flag or anything like that.
That's huge.
It's huge.
I get
Massive.
calls fairly regularly about GVROs. And in Southern California, particularly in San Diego,
For people that don't know, what is a GVRO?
it is a gun violence restraining order, and it just becomes standard operating procedure. Anytime anything happens, any kind of interaction with police, and there is any kind of firearm ownership involved, it is pretty much become standard operating procedure. So, I mean, we just had a case where a guy was road raged. He wasn't the road rager. He was road raged against.
And that was a self-defense incident too.
There was a self-defense incident, but he got arrested, and they gun violence restraining ordered him. They GVRO'd him. Even though it's completely, the judge threw it out and said it was absolutely ridiculous, but that didn't mean he still had to spend big money on it. And he was not a USCCA member. I think he is now. But
I hope so.
he was not at the time. But
And not only the money that's spent on the defense or the process of getting that removed, but then the fallout of ownership after.
which there was, yeah. And we're actually going to have that dude and talk. But anyway, gun violence restraining orders, they're pretty much standard operating procedure in San Diego and in California. We're working on it, but it's here, man. It's here, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. So $15,000 to help pay an attorney.
One thing cool about that benefit too is that is actually can be a standalone benefit. It doesn't have to be from a self-defense incident. It could just be an issue. You know, I've heard weird ones. You know, neighbors or spouses or whatever. So that is actually potentially a standalone benefit, not necessarily just from a self-defense incident.
So if the only thing that happens is a gun violence restraining order and you have USCCA, boom, you're covered.
Call up and get that help.
Awesome.
And a little praise your way. A representative has a lot to do by representing the company. And for what you do probably has a lot to do with what Mike is saying and all these other lawyers are saying. So, little hats off to you.
I appreciate it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
We're not giving you any money. We're just No way, Jose. She's being nasty again, Mike.
What?
She's being nasty.
There blue hair over there?
Oh, blue hair.
Well, awesome. We're talking to Adam from USCCA. He's a local San Diegan.
Yes, sir.
And he's been working for USCCA for 4 years. And USCCA just announced, like you said, they do fairly often some big improvements to their or clarifications and improvements to their coverage, which is fantastic news. And you guys, again, really appreciate how much you guys support the community and how much you support building the community. And of course, your coverage has been great. It's been wonderful. I've heard nothing but good things, had nothing but good experiences from those in the know. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, same thing for me. Like I said before, out in the real world, everybody I've ever met, whether it's members that have had an issue or attorneys that have handled cases, that's what you hear from people that actually have dealt with it, or even instructors, everybody that we work with that actually works with the organization or has something like that. Yeah, that's what you hear.
Well, that's cool, man. Very cool. And you guys were supporters of the last couple of gun shows.
Yeah.
And I heard things. I didn't attend. I was out of town, but I heard things went swimmingly at the last one.
Yeah, the symposium stuff to me is the coolest thing. With the symposiums, and then Aaron and Mike Pettingill doing the little training classes and everything. They're awesome, great classes and everything. But hearing having Gary out there too doing some talks. Where again you're hearing from an attorney that has handled these cases and things like that. It's always kind of
won them.
Yeah, and won them and won all of them.
Dude's like a pit bull.
When you hear how stuff really goes down, and I think that's some of the best information you're ever going to get, is hearing real world stuff like that.
So when all this stuff came down, it's probably a little too quick with the Raheny case. It's just a couple days old, but memos coming down. Are they talking about it at USCCA? Do they have any thoughts, or you know what I mean? Is there any feedback?
They did actually. I believe they put out a statement, and everything on that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they put stuff out if you follow through the website and the emails and everything. Absolutely.
And talked about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, good.
Absolutely.
Very good. Awesome. What do you think? What do you think the future is? What would you like to see? How would you like to see USCCA? With the gun owning community in San Diego, like what would you like the next 12 months to look like, or what are you looking forward to? Or
I think one thing, kind of to what we were talking about with Dave earlier, more people that'll kind of see that we don't just do concealed carry,
Right.
The home defense kind of thing. Like, an example, that is a real thing nowadays. Yeah, I was just recently working with an instructor with kind of a private venue in Carlsbad, La Costa area, and the immigration stuff and the crime and everything. And this was in June. No, during June. May was when we did this. And he was telling me, I don't know since then, but he was like, man, there's been like 37 burglaries and or robberies in this area in the last few months. And that's crazy.
Well, you know what it is? Okay, so when you look at a bad neighborhood, like, I don't live in a bad neighborhood. And what they're talking about is like a high crime neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And the people in a high crime neighborhood who have crime committed against them tend to be criminals. It tends to be criminals committing criminals or criminal acts against criminals. In nice neighborhoods, that's where criminals go to rob, that break in.
That's where all the good stuff is.
It's all the good stuff is, right. It's all the valuable stuff. So the idea that, hey, I don't go to bad neighborhoods, therefore I don't need a CCW, or I don't go to bad neighborhoods, therefore I'm safe or whatever. I think that it's a complete and total misunderstanding of the facts and numbers and statistics.
Yeah, and that's where I think, with the membership too, like I said, besides the insurance portion of it, the education and training part, more people should utilize that to mitigate that stuff in the first place, because there's a lot that you could do to prevent that kind of stuff.
I think a lot of people just think of you guys as insurance. And
Right.
I don't think that there's enough out there, people being sharing about the training aspect.
Oh, you guys really do there's a lot of information that comes from
Great
USCCA.
stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, even like I said, the people get a misconception because it is U.S. Concealed Carry Association that it's just about CCWs and concealed carry, or it's just concealed carry insurance, which that's not even the case either. So that's where I think something like that. Some new kind of systems even in place as well for, let's say like groups, even more of an ability to, like, even say like a company wanted to have memberships for their employees. We have more systems in place like that to do that kind of thing. So I think that's kind of one of the goals is sort of branching out from the just concealed carry necessarily. More people could take advantage of it, and they should.
Well, and people ask me a lot, well, should I get the coverage, before or after I get a CCW or whatever? I tell people my honest opinion is it's always a good idea. But if you have a CCW and you don't have it, you're crazy.
Yeah, especially with a CCW.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a good idea to be able to defend, in some kind of, self-defense situation. But if you're walking around with lethal force and a CCW in your wallet and you don't have this type of coverage, I think you're totally crazy, totally insane.
Well, I mean, the other factor especially with CCWs, because I mean, we've talked about it even on this show before. Some of the cases there's not even a shot fired.
Yeah.
The gun is just literally shown or pulled, and now you have a whole ordeal.
Well, there was the New York Times just had this interview on their blog. It was a journalist who covers a lot of Second Amendment stuff, and he was questioning a researcher, like an academic researcher. And the researcher said that in their survey that it was like 1.7 million times a year or something like that, somebody's involved in a self-defense situation. But then this guy said, but, it was kind of questionable what he was counting. I mean, sometimes, it wasn't somebody using a gun. They just had a gun or someone just showing a gun or whatever. Yeah, man, that counts.
That's still self-defense.
If you're being attacked and all you have to do is brandish, or all you have to do is even say, hey, look, I got a gun, leave me alone, I don't want any trouble, and that ends the attack.
That's a good outcome.
Yeah, put it up on the scoreboard, man.
Yeah.
So, but the idea, and then by the way, the New York Times journalist that was interviewing him was like faking this, like, oh my, being all dramatic. I was like, oh my God. But so many, in fact, the vast majority of defensive gun use in the United States, there's no shot fired.
Yeah.
There's no shot fired. So it's extremely important. But I got to tell you, even if there's no shot fired, and this case with the road rage case, there was no shot fired.
Right.
Even if there's no shot fired, you could get arrested.
Yep.
You could lose your gun. You could need an attorney. And the last thing you want is, like a I don't know, like an attorney who, I don't know, like an estate attorney or something, like an attorney who isn't specializing in this.
Yeah, you want someone who knows what they're doing with this.
Yeah, so.
Well, I mean, even home defense, there's that case that was in the news just recently in Oakland. 77-year-old guy that had 2 intruders bust into his house with weapons, and he shot one, and I think held the other one, and then he got arrested. 77-year-old dude getting taken to jail.
Jeez.
From his own house.
For defending himself.
Yeah.
Seems fair.
That's not even a CCW involved incident. That's just a great example of just a
What happened to Holmes,
normal
your
American.
castle?
It is.
What happened to that?
It's still around. You have 3 castles while your taxes are so high.
I don't even see the last 2.
Car and work.
I got too many cars.
An MR2, a used MR2 is not a castle, by the way, Dave.
That's true. It's a pup tent.
I don't make the rules.
I do have 18 cars. I guess that's lots of little castles. Well, all we can say is good that you're around.
That's right. So you've been watching things from the get-go. You know, I remember you from the very beginning of San Diego County Gun Owners. You and I met like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that. So you've
Where's
seen
the get-go?
The get-go is the very beginning, sir.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the get-go. Is that a weird one too?
No.
Is get-go a weird? Have you never heard get-go?
Hey, Brendan, is get-go a weird one? He's not listening.
He's not there.
I think it's just an old one.
Yeah, well, that's Brendan and I. We've been doing this a lot lately.
The cliches and sayings or whatever.
Squeeze the nickel, make the Indian ride the buffalo.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how.
Anyway, okay, you've been around from the beginning.
Much better.
What do you think about the state of affairs when it comes to Second Amendment? What do you think about what have you seen, and what are your thoughts on how things have progressed?
Is it getting better or is it getting worse?
I think I would say better. I mean, obviously the CCW stuff is great. The sheriff's actually issuing CCWs. It's not to kind of use USCCA as an example too. I think the education and training portion of it is a much better approach with that too, to get more people on board.
Yeah.
And I see it also positive from the other side too, where people are starting to kind of see that, man, there is a lot of bad people out there, and the crime and all that kind of stuff, and more people are starting to kind of think, you know what, maybe I should learn to protect myself. I've been personally even hit up by people who were not necessarily into that, like, hey, you know what, thinking about getting a gun now,
Right.
because they see a lot of that stuff, and that's not the best, I guess, way, seeing all the crime and bad stuff. But I think
some dude standing there in his yoga pants and his frappe and his man bun and be like, I'm thinking about getting a gun now, like that.
Maybe not that extreme. I don't know if we'll ever get those dudes, but
that's the kind of people he hangs out with.
Well, I went to Starbucks the other day and ordered a glass of milk.
Just a glass of milk.
I wanted milk.
Did he throw you out?
Why don't you just go to 7-Eleven or something?
Because I was right next to a Starbucks, and I was like, you know what? So I went in and ordered a glass of milk, and he asked me if I wanted ice in it.
Oh.
I was going to smack the guy.
I like ice in my milk.
Well, I told you. I went.
You have blue in your hair too.
Hey, I went to Starbucks,
Yeah.
and I said I'd like a black cup of coffee.
Yeah.
He said McDonald's is right down the street. Literally. Sent me to
Seriously.
McDonald's. And I haven't been back since.
Don't take it personal.
See, I take it personal when I say I want a small, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have that, but we have tall, grande." And I'm like, "Shut up, shut up."
Hold
You know
on a
that
second.
one.
What was that the thing that you said?
If I said from the get-go, do you know what that means?
Yes, I do, of course.
That's one you knew?
Yeah, I know that one for sure.
From the get-go.
I'm
Yeah.
impressed. All right, let's take a quick break. Why? Because it's Gun Owners Radio. And Sam the Gunman's coming up.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. If you're watching mainstream media, you're not getting the truth about guns. Gun Owners Radio is the easiest way to stay on top of the Second Amendment fight, the fight for your self-defense rights. You can watch our live stream on YouTube every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, or if you're in San Diego, AM 1170, FM 96.1, The Answer. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Gun Owners Radio and you'll find our show. Like and subscribe to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.